Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tachlis Show with Kira Chernikovsky, the show about people who succeed by doing things differently. And today we talk about sales. Well, you guys know I'm in marketing and lately in business applications, but sales might have been a gap for me. But luckily, I have Scott here who has tons of experience across industries, I guess. Scott, you know what? Present yourself, please.
Hi there, thanks. I really appreciate you having me on. And one of my goals is really for your listeners to, because we're talking a lot about CRM, so really a lot of your listeners to give them a different angle on it, on CRM and the power of a CRM, right? That most companies I work for, owners and leaders are clueless about. And I'm hoping to share some of those today, how I've been successful when nobody else using CRM and I have. So my background, I'm like a lot of people right out of college, I stumble into sales, right? And so didn't want to be, I have a degree in business management and, ended up in sales, right? So, and I worked for Fortune 80 companies all the way to small companies. I always B2B, never B2C. So my strength is B2B. I probably one of my most successful times is I was brought on for two small local companies here in Idaho. And the owner said, hey, marketing, sales, right? What do we do? And I love it because I actually wrote my second book during that time. And I followed my best practices I did in my book, and I've learned from before and learned from others. And I was very successful at that company. And again, I say this a lot when I post it. It's not rocket science, a lot of stuff that I do. It's just, in my opinion, that's one of my superpowers, is taking things that I think should be, that to me seem obvious, right? And be able to point them out. And one of my strengths is pointing out the 20%, right, that makes the 80% difference. That's really what my secret sauce is over the years, And some people can't seem to figure out the 20%. And so I did. That was where I wrote my first book. And then since then, I got kind of tired of working for other people, and I always did sales consulting on the side. I did Verizon kickoff 2013 forum for the B2B side here in Idaho. That's probably one of my bigger gigs I had on. But I've never reached out to anybody. They've always come to me. Hey, I heard you wrote a book. I heard you know sales. I heard occasionally, CRM's really good, but that's a rarity. So then I bought a franchise, a networking action franchise. I run once a month professional networking groups, local business owners and decision makers that we want to at the high caliber that we exchange. Last month, my banker gave another visitor a $25 million referral, right? So it's a different level. But that's one of my deal. And then I write my second book right now on B2B sales and how to fix it, which ties into the topic of what we're talking about today is CRM and the power of it.
That's actually perfect, because there is this promo of my podcast that says actionable takeaways from each and every conversation. And you just said you can do those 20% that give the 80% output. So let's try to start untangling that situation. So basically, you help organizations unlock their sales potential through different methods. That would be the nutshell of that. Cool. And then can you tell me those 20% that usually work for most organizations in B2B, can you just give out that secret?
And the sales part of it?
Yep.
Yeah, and then that's, like I said, that's a really complicated pack. But without getting too much into the weeds on this, is that a big focus of my next book is, since my first book, which is 2009, right? And I reread it, and it freaked me out because a lot of the stuff that I said we should be doing then, now there's billion-dollar companies that are saying we should do this. And I was going, I actually, some of the groups I'm in, I actually cut and paste ideas in there, and they'll say, where'd you get that? That's directly out of my book in 2009. So one example is over and over to this day, just there's studies everywhere, right? And most of the studies aren't done very well. But if you go out all the studies, they say salespeople spend a majority of their time doing non-revenue generating activities. That's the key, right? That's 2009 and before, all the way today. Salespeople are what? they're self-generating their own prospect, their own leads generation, which we'll talk about, data entry into a CRM, reports, meetings. So one nugget, right? As an owner or a leader of a company, if and again, I've known you for a while because of Peak Community Group, right? And you say it with an accent, but how Americanized, like it, Kiara. How do you say your name?
Kira.
Kira. Okay, so Kira. I know I've never said accent. Kira. So Kira, if you're really, if I was the owner of a company or the leader of a company, and that when you talk to people, right, to prospective customers, right, buyers, right, that you want to be customers, right, and you're really good at listening to them, listening to their challenges, uncovering their challenges, and how your company's offerings might solve their problems, right, and bring them aboard, not close. That's what you do in a house. You convert, right, convert to a new profitable customer, right, and sometimes they're not the right fit, right. Why, as an owner or business leader, why wouldn't I spend every bit of my time, Kira, what's stopping you from talking to more, more potential buyers, right? Whatever that is, let me get it out of your way. But no, they don't do that, right? They continually go, hey, we want you to do more cold calling, more emails, more. Those are all no, they can lead, but as a company, why don't I try to move a lot of that out of your way and do marketing, do their job, and send you prospective buyers, right? Because if you're really good at what you do, right, you're not a salesperson, you're an industry expert. There's a difference there, right? They're not talking to a salesperson. They're desperate, high commission, right? No, you're an industry expert that has the best, their best intent, right? Why? So there's a big one right there in companies. And that's not rocket science, what I'm saying, but it's to this day, company leaders will ignore that, will say it, but ignore the fact. So there's a big one right there, is that if you're a leader of a company, today, you should start thinking, our next sales meeting, I'm going to ask, right, online and offline, what can I do to get stuff out of your way? And that would make a huge difference in sales. But guess what? Most leaders of companies won't do that. Because why? They're stuck with the old KPIs of, nope, 100 dials a day. So.
Yeah, so I so much agree with you. And as a small company, I'm a marketing person now getting into the sales shoes. And that's exactly the challenge. Yes, you feel you're spending time not where you ought to do that. But then let's stop for a second and dig into what you told me right now. How do business leaders who are maybe not marketing people, not salespeople, how do they identify at all that the time of the salespeople or biz dev is spent where it's not ought to be? How do they know?
And that's a challenge, is that again, revenue generating activities, right? And that could be marketing, right?
Yeah, what is the revenue generating activity?
Yeah, Banana Gen right now is big. Probably the biggest guy on LinkedIn right now is Chris Walker, huge fan. It's all about making a marketing finally, not all, but most, accountable for not just arts and craft department, but actually driving demand, right? So that when you drive demand, what happens? Then if you're an industry expert, you're going to get to talk to more people. But if you have, now there's kind of keeping it real quick here, is that if you're I'm a solopreneur, right? You have a small team, right? The challenge is like the E-Myth, the old book, right? But you have all these different hats on, right? You got to remember that if you can do demand gen really well, right? Then you don't have to do a lot of sales. Right?
Yes.
I mean, traditional sales. When I say sales, traditional sales. That's why people will misquote me. Scott thinks salespeople should all go away and stuff, which I do. Traditional sales, the KPIs, right? They're broken, have been broken, right? So you're gonna have to, as your hat, especially as a startup, right? This is where things change. And I want to make a graph someday on this, is when you're a startup, no one knows who you are. You're gonna have to do a lot of outbound. You're gonna have to put your freaking sales hat on, right? And you're gonna have to, that's and again, I say necessary evil a lot, but whatever. It's an activity that maybe you don't like to do as much, but as your company progresses, weeks, months, and especially years, right? You should be able to do less and less and less that, because you've got an engine of marketing, and part of marketing is inbound, which could be referral partners, right? So they're bringing opportunities to you, and then you can do less and less of what everybody doesn't like to do, which is bug people when they're not interested or not in the market. So, but at first, you're going to have to just get on that put on the hat and say, I'm gonna have to do some outbound. But even that, which we could have a whole new thing on it, there's a way to warm those conversations up, right? If they look at your LinkedIn profile and you have a really good, you have videos of people you've done a podcast with, or they've been on one of your podcasts and stuff, that they have familiarity with you, right? So if you do have to outreach to them, they already know who you are, right? So, and again, if you're a startup, no one knows who you are, you're going to have to do more outbound. But now even cooler is if you start to build a brand, or if you're already a brand, people know you, when you do that outbound, right? They're going to go, oh, hey, I know who you guys are, right? So, but you've already been warmed up, right? But the ultimate goal, you can't always have this, but as your company progresses, however long it is, months, years, right? It has to flip where more is coming inbound, people that are, your marketing is doing their job and out there, creating opportunities and stuff. So it comes to you. So then you can spend, going back to my conversation, very beginning of it, where you can spend most of your time doing what you love to do, which is help people with their problems, not sell them, help them with their problems.
Totally. I wouldn't even laugh about that. That's a special skill. I know. So revenue generating activities can be, like, especially in the beginning, outbound activities, be it through like traditional sales processes or techniques or marketing, or altogether aggregated.
Aggregated, yes. And I'll tell you, there's some large companies out there, Gong, you've probably heard of them, and some other ones, and I think Terminus, and some that the founders, right, of those companies, right, the CEOs ones or the founders, their first 50 to 100 customers, right, were outbound by the founders.
Yeah, outbound. It's founder-led sales called, right?
But guess what? Yeah, but then I could go on keep saying that different tangent that you can, is that keeping things narrow here is that, and that's a huge difference though. When you're a founder of a company, you're passionate about it, you're the founder of this cool company, right? You're not an SDR that's been there for 6 weeks, that when they look at your LinkedIn profile, you've had 10 jobs in 3 years, right? That's a whole, and they don't get that. Oh, I pounded the phone and I got, yeah, you did, but guess what? You were the founder. And when I looked at it, I looked at your background, you worked at this huge company that's really well known, right? Whole different gig, outbound. But even so, that's why you need to kind of build up your little bit of your profile on your LinkedIn or whatever, however your website and stuff. So when people do come to look at you and you do an outbound, they go, oh, well, this company is legit. But you're going to have to, at the very beginning, you're going to be doing a lot of outbound. Just like those other companies get off the ground, they do a lot of outbound. But again, I talk to companies all the time that they've been in business for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years, and they're still, their salespeople do 98.9% outbound, all self-generated. That is
seriously
crazy. That is so inefficient. And guess what? It is so inefficient. They have huge turnover, which they don't track how much that's cost them. And anyway, and that's why finally, that's what my book's about, is we need to change this craziness and bring it back to what I talked about, is that yes, you got to do some outbound, but if marketing does their job and everybody does their job, is that you're going to quit bugging a lot of people. And there's software now, lots of software, Intent, right? All types of software that now you can find out kind of more and more and more who's in the market.
Yeah. So, okay, got you. So first stage is actually with this outbound at, like, hopefully it will take shorter to switch to inbound, but it happens that it can take years. So there, understand who is a player on your team, what you do, what others do, and maybe, flip it around so that it's effective and efficient. Got you. Not an easy
real quick, a plug here too is, I'm a big fan of Sagram at Terminus. Is a lot of times when you're first starting off, you have to be the spear approach for ABM. You now, is there some exception? Low ticket, yes, a whole different gig, but higher ticket B2B, right? Type stuff. Everyone says niche. You got to niche the niche, right? I've heard this before. Take the 80%, right? The 80-20 and 80-20 that. That's what you need to do. Take the 80-20, 80-20 that, then there's your niche. Now it's doable to do the reach out. And then if you have marketing and sales, or if you're both, right, then you have to work together to try to, go out and try to get some of those customers, especially when you're first starting out with a startup.
Yeah, then let's continue with the process. So we identified who does what and what the priorities are and how hopefully they work together. You mentioned a lot of tools. So yes, agree. There is marketing stack, there is sales stack, there are project management tools, CRM tools, operational tools, whatnot. For newer or maybe smaller companies, although I'm surprised how many companies run on proprietary software, when do you think some tools need to be introduced? And it doesn't really matter. I'm not asking about like CRM specifically. In general, when does the technology help versus wasting time to understand how this technology works and figuring out like, hey, without human intervention, it's not helpful actually.
Right. The CRM, that's kind of that usually most companies agree that's kind of your hub. Everyone has to get a CRM of some type. Having one internally, especially a small company, I'm sure there's a rare exception. For the most part, it is so cost effective. And you partner with some great CRM companies, right? So you can get some for really a low cost, and they've spent millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or even zero cost.
Yeah. Some of these CRMs are free when you first start, right? So why you have to start at least with that, right? And then start adding a few. And again, less is more. There's thousands of MarTech tools now out there, SaaS tools for all these companies, sales and marketing, right? And it gets to be where there's duplications and stuff like that. So when you first start off, though, you're going to have a CRM. You're going to have the basics down, a website. Do you have a Google business page? Some B2B do not have them, and you don't have to always have one, right? If you're not, it's not your space. But if you're a big enough company, they just don't have some of them. Some bigger companies, those are kind of for smaller companies. But if you are a smaller company, you can utilize that. So and then try to get into it. Like you and me, we're both part of a Peak Community Marketing Group, and it's just a bunch of like-minded professionals, marketing professionals around the world. That's the cool part, around the world. And we sit on things like this and say, hey, what tools are you using, right? So that's what I recommend is trying to get part of these communities and ask people, say, hey, what are you using, right?
Yeah.
Because the old days of going out research and stuff, right? That is a freaking nightmare. Now, I do this as I hear something like in one of these groups, right? And then I go to YouTube and I look for some demos, right? But I'm not going to the company because I don't want them bugging me, right? Because people don't want to talk to salespeople.
How funny it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Why do you think that the buyer's journey is 80% of the way done? Blah blah blah. Before, right? Because we don't want to talk to salespeople. We want to take a shortcut to get around them. To go, okay, this is really, really good. In fact, something that's so good now that I've talked to several people in my communities and I checked out some demos. Now I want to talk to somebody. But even then, a lot of times I don't want to talk to a salesperson if they're not knowledgeable what I want, or maybe I'm so far in, I just want to talk, I want someone to, how do I sign up?
Yeah, totally. I've read, and there is a lot of statistics now that even throughout COVID, people started, of course, researching more. There is more access to information, and you lose a lot of potential sales or partnerships because you are too late in the game. That's because people don't want to talk to salespeople, which is true.
Yeah, most don't. That's why the shortcuts anymore are, community groups, talking to other like-minded people that are where, or maybe 2 years ago, they were where you at. That's even better. Talking to people right where you're at so you can kind of mentor each other, right? And then also talk to people that are 2, 3, 5 years out going, oh, I was there, not too far out unless they're really progressive, because sometimes the environment changes so fast in marketing and stuff like that. It's hard talking to someone that's already kind of made it. Sometimes they're a $1 billion company. Maybe they might not understand what a company that's trying to make their first million, right? Or first 100,000.
Oh yeah,
different game.
Yeah, and funny enough, like where I mentor here in Toronto, people ask like, what are, let's say, CRMs for small businesses? How do I choose? And like, ask companies in your industry, like what they work with, like do that, because I can recommend just what I know, and that's limited.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll jump to another question. We had a quick conversation about the importance of follow-ups, because I struggle with that every day.
Yeah.
Okay, prospecting on a really, insightful level, how someone can help someone without really any hard sale. But then how do you follow up? When do you follow up? Like for
Yeah.
people who haven't been, educated or brought up like salespeople, and they're not excellent in that, I think that's a huge challenge. How are you not annoying? Do you have any best practices in that area?
Yeah, and I have recent examples of how you do get
Yes,
annoying.
please.
Just today, I had a Zoom call with a little group I have, kind of a little mastermind group, and very small. And one person said they signed up for this. It was a sales course, right? Which I'm not a fan of, but they signed up for it, right? And they said, "Holy smokes!" They said, "I'm getting 4 to 10 emails a day from signing up from this thing," right? And then the other person goes, "Well, yeah, and if you watch or you do this, be careful, because you'll end up getting 15 to 20 a day," right? So I am a good example here recently is that I have uh, kind of a separate email for my consulting, right? And I just set up this new email and stuff, so it's fresh, and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be nice to be able to tell who's in there because it's not clogged up in my personal or my franchise email, right? Well, I love this company. I signed up for a demo with this company. I'm not kidding you. I get 3 to 4 emails
I
a
know.
day. I go in there and it's like this company's name is, and it's like I could get lost. The email's not that old, I could get lost in. Now just think if I went out and did 10 vendors, 20 vendors, right? And so that's the balance of follow-up nowadays. It's automation tools are the best thing that ever happened and the worst, right? So what you got to do is you got to figure out that I'd say you got to look at that and go, how many people in this company are bugging bugging Scott? You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah.
And it is because it kind of repels me a little bit, because it's like, my goodness gracious, this is just overwhelming, right? And I'm thinking about signing up for them. I did the demo, I liked it, but anyway. So what's the balance, right? So the follow up, which I've done for years and years and years, recommended for years, talked about, written about, is it a CRM automate your follow up, right? But only if. Now, a lot of the CRMs nowadays are a lot of automation, so you can set them up so they'll automatically, you get done with the phone call, then you can easily schedule your follow-up. Pick what which you could before. It's just a little more automated now, right? On the follow-ups and stuff, right? But the key on follow-ups is that I have one of my favorite illustrations out of my first book is a CRM robot, and a friend of mine drew it, and he has, I think, 6 arms. It's a robot CRM on his chest, right? And he's on 1 foot, right, juggling boxes that say opportunities on them, right? Well, that's what a CRM does for you. Is that if you're taught, even if you're doing large ticket sales, right? Let's say you only have 50 prospects, right? Total in however many months and months and months, right? That's still too many to remember in your freaking head, right? So you have to schedule the follow-ups. Like, is it an email? Is it a phone call? Or maybe with the new, you can do an automatic generated, follow-up, right? But whatever you do, you have to have a follow-up. Because what have I seen in the past? Because companies have put so much pressure, or not pressure, pressure's a word, too pressure, but basically, hey, you're on your own, fake it till you make it, get in there and sit down, right? And then here's your CRM, right, which you hate, right? And then they don't teach you how to do follow-up, right? So depending on the size of the opportunity is how I'm going to follow up. And depending on what is said in the conversations I have, emails coming, is how I'm going to follow up. But the key is the same. You have to automate your memory. And that's what a CRM does for you. And that's opportunities, because you're going to drop the balls on some, right? If somebody tells you, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is if someone tells you, hey, I love your stuff, but we bid every 3 years, right? And we're going to be rebidding it in 6 months, a year, right? Well, right now, you have that happen 50 times, and they tell you they're interested. They tell you we are highly interested. Out of 50 opportunities, 20 opportunities, right? That you have like that over 6 months, a year, whatever it is, right? Right? There's no way a human can remember all those and the dates. You just can't do it. So you got to automate your memory and that's why most sales leaders don't know how to do that or how to teach to that, because guess what? They've never used a CRM like that themselves. And like I said, in that one company, my first direct report who had no sales experience, right? She was a burned out manager that just tired of management, thought she wanted to do something different. She had all the skill sets, right? So I brought her in and she was a CRM freak, because everything I recommended for follow-ups, she was so good at, I don't want to say freak, good at, right? Is that I would maybe land a big opportunity. So some couple follow-ups that, hey, I need to touch bases with them or whatever, right? I get this big opportunity and we focus on that, onboarding them and all the afterwards and getting customer service with them and making sure it's a success and stuff, right? She would look and go, oh, and move up in the CRM. Hey, you still need to call these people. You're supposed to call them last Friday. So we did that to each other.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do as well, especially when the task is not dependent on me. There are, you have specific deadlines, but you need to activate other people.
Yeah. And then that's why as a team, they're good too. Because then you can, again, that's where if you use a CRM, which most people don't, right? And you look at the positive sides of things and you understand they are a lot of work. No matter the modern ones now are still a lot of work, but you understand as a company is that they are a lot of work, but they're key to our success as a team, right? So as a team, I can look and say, hey, oh, look, Bill missed a deadline. And maybe he's working hard over here on this big deal, big customer that, bringing him aboard and stuff like that, right? Right. Then you have to go, oh, hey, Bill, I know you're doing all the way. Do you want me to do that for you? Do you want another team member to do it?
That would be so perfect. Yeah. My gosh.
And then you can move. And that's where if you can get authority on different moving around. And that's what I've done on a small scale, because I was in charge of everything. So we all kind of looked out for each other, but I taught a whole culture that we're all on the same team, not that if I get that sale, you're going to lose money on it, or you're going to lose, or marketing gets it. We were it, I was, and that's why I was so successful there, because there was total alignment in that company, right? Because I have like 3 direct reports, 4 direct reports, right? And I'm the boss. Guess what? We got along. We all knew what our roles were, because it's because there was no fighting, because I was in the whole culture was we're all here as a team, whole team mentality.
So what you are saying, like this is genius. I love it. So this CRM can serve as just the tool for enhancing the collective business memory. Yep. And we all can succeed as a team. So we'll make the quota if we're talking about sales, and we'll support each other, which is like so missing, right, in the digital world. I never thought of that. That's amazing. So then why salespeople dislike CRM? We just said how cool it is if used right, of course.
Yeah, and very, very, very few salespeople. Like, in fact, I'm on a lot of, listen to podcasts where there's other people on and stuff like that. And a funny thing is just reinforces it here in the last 6 months. There's a very large CRM company. It's free, very large $1 billion company, right? And I'm listening to some podcasts, and I'm listening for this stuff. And they said, yeah, it'd be nice once these trade shows get back, and they go, if we could get our salespeople to add better notes, to what went on, right? But that's a constant challenge, man. And someone else goes, oh yeah, that's a challenge our company too. Someone else goes, oh yeah, that's a challenge our company too. And I just laugh, because I'm going, that right there, right? If they can't figure that out, that and go, and like I have, say stop, right? If why do salespeople not like CRMs, right? Because CRMs are a data entry nightmare, even with inside sales, right? Which is totally a different okay. So if you real quick on a CRM, right? So CRMs, and I've never heard this talked about. I've talked about it in my new book no one else has ever heard it. I'm sure someone has, but I'm listening for, I haven't heard it. So CRMs used by outside salespeople versus inside salespeople are 2 different things completely.
Really?
Yes. And I'll tell you, and they don't know that. That's the thing that's funny. So for example, now we're starting to open up again. People are starting to go back to trade shows and stuff like that, right? So I'm at a trade show, right? And I meet somebody and they're interested, right? Maybe I meet 10 people, plus then you have a drawing, which you're trying to sucker people in to get their email addresses, right? They know that too, by the way, right? So you should not bug them unless they're a prospect, and maybe there's a nice way to reach out to them, you know, and keep engaged. But just to spam people, that's crazy. You put something in for a drawing and they're not a fit, right? Make sure that they have a chance to draw, keep it all in the honor system. But anyway, so you have all those people. Now, all these freaking cards, right? How do I, all those conversations, all those business cards, that's called what? That's called data entry nightmare. How do I get all that into my CRM? And guess what? Now, a percentage of those people I connect with on LinkedIn, we have conversations on LinkedIn. Oh, they say, hey, and they want to connect with you on Facebook. Oh, and then they message you. Oh, and then they text you on their personal mobile. Now you have all these different things out there, right? That's a nightmare for an outside salesperson, right? That's why, and people don't understand that. And I've got, over the years, I've got lots of cheat ways to you know, cool shortcuts and stuff, the way to make it better, not perfect. The biggest thing is, as a sales leader, which I was at, I understand it's a huge pain in the butt for data entry, but it's critical for sales. So I'm going to give my sales professionals time, needed time with the shortcuts that I've come up with to be able to get that data entry in there. Because I know what, not at nighttime, not 3 days later, because now you also your brain goes. Now we'll go to inside sales. Now you have tools like Gong, and then what's Yog's company called?
Avoma.
Avoma, right? Brilliant, brilliant stuff. AI tools where they can, you know, help you listen to the conversations better, analyze it better, what's said, what resonates with your customers. And Yog's like a personal assistant, which takes all these notes for you and analyze them and suck it into a CRM. So a lot of that old key entering is becoming less and less, right? So CRM is becoming easier and easier to use, right? But until those came along, right? And they're still, I still talk to people, they're still not perfect. So even though those have come a long ways, now all of a sudden you have those tools which are substantially help salespeople substantially, right? But now you still get the other thing I talked about. Now they reach out to you on LinkedIn. Now there's a conversation on LinkedIn. Now they text you from their mobile phone. Oh, and this time accidentally they text you from their private. All those conversations, how do you get them in your CRM, right? Because they are crucial, especially if it's $1 million deal. They're crucial. Oh, they texted me on their personal phone that their kids just won. They want to talk to you. They're really interested in you. Really, they're not putting you off, but they're on a trip to my daughter's softball team. She just got awarded the player of the year. Blah. And this is all through a personal text, right? That information has to go in your CRM, right? So, but again, that's still, now you're getting away from that, right? But it takes a salesperson that understands it, how to do that. And it takes a sales leader that's going to give you time to do that and know how important it is, and not make you at night, you know, go, oh, all that stuff, you know, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 is the, you know, is a critical time. Do all that crap, you know, it's a wink thing with most leaders, that they want you doing all that crap, you know, off hours. And then also the saying of, I'll say this really quick. I've talked to leaders, founders of $1 billion CRM companies, right? That you would know them. These are founders. And I said, DM'd them through LinkedIn because I rant and rave, I don't call it, evangelize how broken CRMs are, right? How they're such a pain in the butt for most salespeople to use. And that's why they hate them, and they won't. So I've DM'd because they commented on some of my posts, like, good point, right? And so then I go to them and go, hey, just what I just told you. If it isn't in the CRM, it didn't happen, right? That crap, right? So I DM them, okay, you personally, or your salespeople, but you personally, first of all, I say, you personally, do you use it like you mandate for salespeople? Every single founder of a CRM company, vice president of a CRM company, of sales, marketing, they all say the same thing. No. Yeah. I've done some Zoom interviews. I said, what do you think? 50% of the information in there out of all those things I talked about? No. I've talked to some that have told me they put 0 notes in, or they use a totally different CRM, or they use a notepad, but then they mandate it for the salespeople, right? And there's one founder who's great. I reached out to him, and he's really trying to do a great thing of automating a lot of stuff. But I asked him, because he commented twice on one of my posts on CRMs, And I ask him first, did he use it? Right? Like he expects? No, the next thing is, can what I just talked about, all these different sources of information coming in,
Yeah.
can any salesperson truly even come close if it's not CRM? It didn't happen. He said, no, at time, there's no CRM that can do that. And so, but he expects his salespeople to.
No, that's perfect what you said. It's figuring out basically what works for your sales process, because it can be different. And then maybe, yes, you need only 20% of the CRM or whatever other tools functionality. But if you are clear on that path, on those essentials, then implementing that and adjusting the tools towards that, it's actually not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's just, I know that many people try to use maybe automation to fix the sales process. No, it goes the other way around.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Cool. Do you have any tips and tricks of yours that you use in your CRM that really, make the big difference?
There's over the years, there's been several. One, when I worked for a company where we had a lot of, when I got there, that the owner told me exactly opposite of what I ended up doing. That's why I left the company. And they're not on my LinkedIn, by the way, too. But we had a lot there. There's a lot of outbound stuff. I mean, a lot of outbound, in-person outbound, right? And which I was against, but I was in there, anyway. So on that company, right, I actually had a founder reach out to me basically was a virtual assistant, right? So I would come out of a meeting, right? And this is outside sales. I would come out of a meeting, or one of my team, very small team, would come out of a meeting and say, yeah, this person is in charge of it. They said they're interested in hearing more about it, right? So I would, on my iPad, or you can do it on a mobile phone too, is go on the voice thing, and I'd go, take a picture of the card, set up new account. Next thing, set up meeting, right? And then I do verbalize what happened in the meeting, and then go schedule next Monday follow up, right? Give Betty a call because she said so, and that's a key. She said so. So when you call, right, you can say, because people forget stuff, right? She said so, right? Hey, I talked to you last Wednesday. I dropped by and dropped off my card, and you said you were interested in talking to me, and you told me to call you back Monday. So I'm calling you back Monday, right? So that's a key versus just somebody random. But the only reason you know that is because the way I train people and myself, that she said so, he said so. You check the notes and go, oh, that's right. And any other personal information, the daughter softball game, right? Oh, before we go any further, and they go, oh, I mean, all of a sudden they remember you, right? Out of nowhere. So there's a key, is the notes in your CRM commercial. So I basically we had a personal assistant at night that would go in to the CRM we had and would actually do it. And they're about 95% effective of setting up all those new accounts. You had to come in and make sure that the numbers, everything was perfect, about 95% set. So there was something where a virtual assistant did all that data entry for us at a very low cost, right? So that outside sales, that's one.
Cool.
Probably one of the biggest things is what I've already talked about is having sales leaders understand, or now it's all about, rev ops, everything, is about rev ops, is having your revenue officers understand that the power of utilizing the intelligence gained from listening and text and all this information coming in, right? How do I get that, make sure it's in the CRM, so then when we look at it as a person or as a team, hopefully a team, right, we can, and I got these tools, like I mentioned, with Udi and Yog, right, with tools that can even more analyze stuff, so that when you reach back out to this person, or they reach out to you for a meeting, right, you can more intelligently remember everything was said, not reinvent the wheel. If there's stuff they already agreed to, don't bring it up again, right?
Yeah.
Focus on what they're interested in or what they still have challenges with. You can do that, but you can only do that if you've captured that intelligence, that knowledge.
Totally.
But most CRMs, in fact, I've done a lot of free consulting, but I've got paid sometimes. But I worked with company after company that I about the inside outside, right? So they have 60% of the sales force was out, 40% was in, And, here I am with the founder and the second command, vice president of marketing and sales. And they said they're having troubles with the CRM notes and stuff like that. So I said, hey, have you ever had an outside salesperson leave? They go, oh yeah. Oh, because they have high turnover, right? Oh, really? Okay. How easy was it to figure out where they're at with all their opportunities?
Yeah.
Near impossible.
Impossible.
Why? They're putting just enough in to keep you off their back. But the reason they're keeping off the back, because you don't know how to use a CRM yourself. You don't know what to look for, right? So they're putting just enough to keep the salespeople off, the sales management off their back, right? So they're not using it in a proper way. Or if they do, they're keeping too much up in their head, right? And it's because they don't have the time at night to do all this data entry. So a lot of salespeople put just enough in, right, to keep people off their back, but not now. They're still at least they have some memory themselves, right? But once they're gone, and that's another huge, talking about the benefits of CRM, a huge problem. I'll give you, that'll segue into something else on the best practice on CRM, why it's so powerful, right? So the cheat ways was one, as a company overall, we're going to sit down as leaders of this company and we're going to figure out, just by what I just talked about, how do we get that intelligence into the CRM, okay? And take 95% of the burden. The salesperson's still going to do some data entry, right? Whatever that is, right? Make it less. I did, and I didn't even have any automation tools like that now, but make it less and give them time, right, to do it, because it's so important for long-term success, right? So give them time to get the intelligence and knowledge into the CRM, right? That's the biggest thing, having the leaders understand, which most don't know because they've never used the CRM correctly. So they can't know, but having them listen to something like this and go, oh, wow, okay, I'm going to try something different, have a competitive advantage, right? That's the first thing, right? Then the next thing is understanding the power of it, right? That's a key, right? So we understand the power, so we understand how we're going to solve all this data entry problem. Now, here's the key long-term is I work for a company, and this has happened over and over and over again. I work for a company and they didn't have any CRM. Well, actually, that's not true. Almost all companies have a CRM for customer service and ordering and all that. They don't call it a CRM. CRMs are known to salespeople, right? That's what it is. Because CRMs, a lot of times, they're customer service people. So real quick on best practice, customer service versus sales. Okay, sales, I work for this company and we were really good. Our company was strong at utilities, right? We had lots of utilities across the country, right? That was our strength, right? So as a salesperson, our marketing department was non-existent, right? So I was marketing sales. So I was doing a lot of outbound, right? So we have a local one and then one that's outside the state. So I'm working on both at the same time. The out of state one, it took me, and I asked everybody, one of the owners of the company said, oh, hey, we're really good. You should go after this. I said, who do we know there? I don't remember. And then two salespeople ago, right? Two salespeople ago reached out to them and said they might be an opportunity, right? But that person was gone, which is typical. So I work for, who knows, 2 months. I find the person. They look at my letters of reference from the other utility company stuff going, holy crap, Scott. God, I wish you would have been here 2 weeks ago. We just got done with our bid and awarded it. Oh, please keep us on your bid because our next bid's in 3 years.
Cool. At least you've got that.
No. But the thing is, though, is that 3 months, 3 years, right? Yeah. That's what the power of a CRM is. But companies don't do all the stuff I talked about with their salespeople, right? So they're not setting them up for long-term success because a lot of times, unfortunately, with the high turnover, the average salesperson in the United States, the salesperson is there for 1.5 years, right? If they're lucky, under 2 is really where it's at, right? So all that intelligence is going to be gone over and over again. That's why there's no investment. But if you have a company that has a clue, right, and has longer term salespeople, which is rare, follow my book, you'll have longer term people, right? Is that you'll understand that the power that it kind of snowballs on a CRM is that all these opportunities, once you get them all in there, can snowball because now you're not like that, my robot with 6 arms, right? The opportunities, right? You're not manually trying to juggle 6 things, right? And it's just, anyway, so you got to be able to, there's some keys to where kind of low level and high level where companies need to, why CRMs are such a powerful tool if you know how to use them. And again, most people don't.
This is, as my friend David says, CRM as the single unified data about your clients, and everybody agrees that that's the source, and information can come from anywhere, but that's the one.
Now here, and now, but then again, these studies are all over the map, over and over and over again, right? Data now is one of the new competitive advantages going into 2020, into 2022. I hear that all the time, and it makes me laugh. Laugh is really what it is, because then in that same breath, that's so important. Leaders of companies, right? Marketing, sales, you name it, rev ops, everything, right? How much faith do they have? What percentage of the CRM data they have is accurate? And it's like 30%. So you're saying this is the key, data is the king, data is the queen, right? But over and over and over again, it's like none of them, nobody thinks that the data in their CRM is very accurate, right? If they're lucky, 50. Even if it was 80, that's not good, right?
Yeah, what do we do about that actually? And you told me once about
it's all the stuff I just told you. A company has to have a clue on the power of a CRM, and the missing piece is the people that are helping gather that intelligence, treat them like people, not like crap, like robot, coin operating machines. I hear that again. I'm going to, puke. They talk about salespeople or the way that you run them, they are, right? But if you ran them the right way, which you actually had them around for a couple of years, then they could build. They don't know how much money they're losing. So that's kind of two things tied together. The high turnover in sales, which is one of their number one sources of intelligence, right? On their people, and keeping that in there, right? So, and again, that's one of their best resources, is these salespeople actually talking to people, having conversations with people. That information, which is power to helping you win, especially big deals down the road, because they're, a couple missaid things. If somebody says something that, this is critical to me buying this, right? And the salesperson jots it down, right? And then never gets into the CRM, right? But now you have the tools that can suck that into there. There's kind of a game, a way around it. But still, if you have somebody who is there listening and also being able to review their notes and understand in context what that meant, right? 6 months from now, a year from now, or with that one utility company I talked about, in 3 years, I would be doing, if you had a marketing department, I'd contact marketing and say, it was a lady who was in charge. We're going to keep in touch with her, but we're going to be very careful not to bug her. But all that's about automating it, right? Through all these tools and stuff, so that when it does come around, you're still top of mind with her 3 years later, right? And again, all you do is you multiply that times all your opportunities. And that's where companies right now are dropping a whole bunch of opportunities, because they don't use the CRM right. And they don't use it right because, again, most leaders don't know how to use one. They never use one. They don't know how to use it because they never use one.
Yeah, and I guess last question on best practices that just came to me. Let's say you have consulted the companies, and all the processes are done right from the sales perspective, and CRM is constructed right according to the specific processes. What are the best practices of actually going through those, be it tasks or achieving the goals every day? We always have this conversation about, random alerts, reminders, or dashboards. I'm still in debate with myself. Do you have any best practices? Because even if you have those 50 prospects, probably a few contact people under each company, how the heck do you structure your day around that?
You're gonna have to. Well, first of all, the alerts are again. You get too many opportunities. If you're huge, you don't have a lot. That's the perfect world. Let's say I just got Josh Wagner. I was just on his podcast, and he does very large enterprise accounts, right? So he's doing a couple. He's lucky because he can have reminders come up. But if you start to get, like most salespeople, even if you have high tickets or solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that are small, right? Man, the alerts start to be annoying. You get so many alerts and stuff. So you have to be diligent. If you don't have those, right, you have to be diligent on checking your calendar, right? If it's tied into your CRM, and checking it and checking all follow-ups. And that's where some of the tricks I recommend. She said so, right? Is that,
Yeah.
oh, that's a, right? She said so, right? Email her this, call her this, right? Those are keys to make it, but you have to follow up, because what happens is you get too many opportunities into your CRM, right? You're going to start dropping a bunch of opportunities.
Yeah.
So the next thing I'd recommend is and a lot of them, I haven't done this, but you can kind of color code them, different, priorities. And I always recommend, on your accounts, A account, B account, C account, D account, right? Is that if you have an A account, right, you better mark it red or something, right? So that you don't drop the ball. So that when you look, actually the day before, you glance at your go, oh, holy smokes, because and I even best practice I do is I have even scheduled, which is just simple stuff, but a lot of people don't, is if it's a huge opportunity, right? You don't want to get up in the morning and be scrambling, right, on this huge opportunity, right? You want to make sure how much I'm going to schedule a to-do, right? I'm going to do some research. I'm going to prep for
Yeah.
even this a little bit. We kind of talked about, and I kind of thought about what are some of the best things for the audience, some of the best kind of stories I could do to kind of help them out and stuff like that. But I mean, if you have a multi-million-dollar opportunity, or any company, just whatever that large opportunity, right? You might schedule, in red, like, hey, do some prep, right? And then you'll know what that prep is, right? But if you don't do that, you're going to get up every day of the schedule, and you're going to be reactive, calling people reactively. So I even say, I've been doing this for a long time. Even somebody that tells me they're interested, right? They're a big opportunity, not medium, right? Or whatever, right? Not big, huge, you want them, but they're not, going to, change the company landscape, right? Even that, I still quickly glance at the CRM notes that I have, right? And then I go out and check out what they're doing on LinkedIn. I check out what they're doing at Facebook, right? Real quick, right? And because now when you're talking to them, you can, and that's what few people understand is through automation, yes, you can still bring humanization to stuff, right? How do you do that? Social media is a perfect way, right? Is you can, which you couldn't do before, right? As good, right? Now on now I can go in and see your activities. What have you done? Oh, look, you're on these podcasts, right?
Yes.
If it's a big opportunity, maybe I listen to that podcast, see what you said, and then say, hey, I listened to you on that podcast. That was awesome. Oh, hey, that's not bad. So you can become a lot. And again, that doesn't, I don't think that's a, I just think it's a way, with as crazy as life is right now, it's a way to go, okay, I'm going to focus on this person, right? And because they are a person, right? They're not some, number, right? They are an actual customer I'm trying to help,
Yes.
right? So I care about their success, but also part of their success is, hey, they're really passionate about their daughter's softball team, right?
Yeah.
And so if she connected with me on maybe they don't want to, so that doesn't mean everybody wants you on Facebook. I wouldn't recommend that, but I have people that are customers or even potential customers. They reach out to me on Facebook, right? And on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I always sign up. I sign everybody up for LinkedIn. And even that, you can kind of check on their background to see what they're important on. So that's where CRMs and technology can keep the human link still, even though it's like, well, you're automating the personal connections with people. No, I think some people, if some people I graduate from high school or college, I wouldn't know what the heck they're doing. It's been so many years ago, just like a customer, right? So you can see really quickly through automation, social media, really quickly, some things that really matter to a person. So I don't think, I'm not one of these people that poo-poo technology and think it's I try to look at the positive side of technology, versus the negative side.
No, that's great. I love your approach. It can be as simple as color coding or ABCD accounts, and it can go to sophisticated dashboards. Is there anything else from the important things we wanted to convey that we didn't cover?
No, I just think overall, I just think on the CRM, it's one of those topics that it's funny because, the people I have talked to are always in trouble. Business owners, founders, it's always because they're just, another salesperson has quit, another salesperson, and they can't figure out what the hell's going on, right? So the first problem they need to take care of is quit having their salespeople quit so much, right? That's usually their problem too, right? And the second thing is I just think, again, if you're an owner of a company, right, or the leader of a company, understand that a CRM is so powerful, but it takes a lot of work, right? And that you're going to allow your team the time and then also part of my job is to, how can I automate all that? You can't, but how can I automate as much as I can? And maybe there's a new software tool that pops up, right? That can do that. I'm always looking for them too. There's a couple software companies that actually suck in a lot of the social media type stuff so that it makes it kind of more personal. The challenge is though, you have things like LinkedIn that will stop letting you suck that stuff in from time to time. So anyway, that's a challenge. So the big takeaway I think on this is understand the power. It shouldn't be a necessary evil. A CRM shouldn't be. It is because of the environment we're in and because of the lack of knowledge of sales leaders and of leaders of companies. So you can make it a competitive advantage going forward by the simple things I've talked about, right? And I'm sure there's people that are way more knowledgeable of CRMs than me because I just haven't been involved with all the inside sales and all the cool automation tools I have now and stuff, and how much more you can utilize that information and technology, right? But it starts with you, the owner or the sales leader or the rev ops leader, right? Going, this is so important. We need to make sure that we're gathering that information and making it easy on our team to help us gather that information.
That's amazing. CRM for competitive advantage.
It is a huge.
That's what it is.
I have ran over my competitors by using a CRM. I'll give it one other quick tip for everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a quick tip. This is a big one. I actually forgot about it. It was in my first book, and then I ran into a new customer that's in the industry, and I went, hey, I called him up, another team member, right? And so I said, hey, I did this over and over again. I in that one industry when I wrote my book, I knew a lot of the salespeople of my competitors, right? I knew their names, knew who they were, right? And I didn't have as much social media as I have now, right? So in my CRM, I would make an account on them, right? What accounts they had, every account I had, I would tag it that this lady is a sales rep. That's her account, right? Boom, 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 right? And then I'd either drop by or a phone call or something, just saying, hey, here's another referral. I come up with a non kind of salesy way. Hey, here's another referral from a person in your vertical that says that, they're so glad they switched over to me and my team, right? And the company right here, right? Or I'd email it to them, right? And then they'd go, hey, I want to talk to you. Oh, what's changed? Right? Oh, well, I had a really good relationship with Sue. And she left. That kind of pisses me off because I think they treat her like crap. It happened over and over and over again. Guess what? Sue, especially if Sue leaves the industry, right? I did a blitz list, not all right away, but in a certain amount of time, a blitz list. I had it all tracked. Again, I had time. I taught my other people too to do this, right? Small staff, right? Same thing was we had a blitz list because a lot of times people buy, you got to have a good company, right? But if you have two companies that are pretty similar, a lot of times it's a salesperson, it's the glue, right? I had a whole training thing on about that topic, but how you can make it stickier, a customer. But a lot of the companies are stupid and are not intelligent and have that salesperson be the main contact for that company. And then they leave, especially they leave and they're disgruntled and they shouldn't, but they do kind of let their, and again, I would recall the people up, not saying I know that Sue's gone, just, hey, touch the base again, here's another referral. Something I want to talk to you. And then once they told me she was gone, then in my CRM, I had it all tracked. Went, oh, here's a blitz list for me now. I recircled back. My other team member recircled back. She did the same thing. And that is like powerful,
Wow.
So anyway, there's a little trick tip.
It's big. It's big. It's a great one. Okie dokie.
Or a company, or one other quick one is a company gets bought out. Nowadays, all these SaaS companies get bought out, right? Same thing is, right? You find they're using a competitive product, right? And all of a sudden they get bought by some big monster, right? A lot of times the service drops, right? So now I have my whatever time that is, I have a blitz list now because I know that these 30 customers all use that software, right? And let's see how this new company, if it can keep up the same level of service. And I'm betting they don't. And a lot of times they don't. So there's another way you can blitz back through all your prospects.
I will go think of that. That's a great tip. That's not even the back door. That's just better service for the end customer. Yeah,
it is. It's like you're there. Hey, has anything changed? Yeah, they have changed, right? They dump my it happens all the time. Again, I've been successful at it because the relationship with one was stupid, but with one person was most of the relationship. That person leaves, especially if they're disgruntled, right? They're gonna go, maybe this company isn't the best. And all of a sudden you come back by with another testimonial letter saying how good your company is. I think I do want to look at you now. Gives you another opportunity.
That's great.
Now your foot's back in the door. And I have a saying, I'll end on this. One last thing is, most large opportunities are always opportunities because things change. Salespeople leave, people in the company, critical people leave. Could be the CEO, the reason you're buying from the company. Guess what? How many times have you seen a CEO on LinkedIn, boom, go to another company, right? Well, there's a perfect opportunity. A lot of to reach back out to them, because now a lot of people bought for that CEO, right?
Yes.
Now that CEO's gone, maybe you have your CEO give them a call up.
Amazing. Opportunities are always opportunities.
Yeah. And all
because
that is
of the
tied
relationships.
To what? All that's tied back to what? Your CRM, if you use it right.
That's great. That's awesome. What's the name of your new book and when is it coming up?
I'm hoping to have it come up in September, and it's the screwed up world of sales, B2B sales, the screwed up world of B2B sales, and how to fix it in only 135 pages.
Give one to me, please.
I'll give you an autographed copy. You're one of my fellow Peak members, so of course you're.
All right, that was a wonderful conversation. I think I'll have like a great post with the best tips and tricks. Cool. And a lot of comments around that. Thank you so much, Scott, for being on my podcast.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye.